Across the water from Southampton lies a sleepy little village on the edge of the New Forest. It is difficult to imagine that this was once the site of one of the most progressive boatyards in the world, which was to revolutionize powerboats and play a significant role in the Second World War. In 1927, Hubert Scott-Paine bought the Hythe Shipyard, and the British Powerboat Company was born. The keen sportsmen the first craft built were racing boats and fast cabin cruisers. His Miss England racing boat won the World Championship from Miss America at Daytona Beach in 1929. Yet outward appearances may be deceptive, and perhaps this is the reason some standard texts on the history of powerboats overlook the achievements made by the British Powerboat Company, and the boatyard is sometimes mistakenly cited at Hythe in Kent, rather than Hampshire, even by the Greenwich Maritime Museum. Hubert Scott-Paine discovered how to build a craft which, in contrast to the ordinary ship, would travel over the surface of the water instead of forcing its way through it. This type of craft attained high speed with commercially usable horsepower, although it was a planing craft. This discovery and the development of suitable high-speed lightweight machinery placed Britain in the forefront of world development of high-speed craft, and the boatyard went on to produce and race Panther I and Panther II and the record-breaking speedboat Miss Britain III.
We just come in from running off the measured mile with Miss Britain III, and I'm very glad to be able to say that the first time in the history of the world we've been able to put up with a British boat and a British engine 100 miles an hour. Extremely cold, a very hard beam wind and a heavy beam sea, extremely trying conditions, and I must say that I'm very glad that we've been able to achieve our object.
Now on permanent display at the Greenwich Maritime Museum, Miss Britain III was of metal sandwich construction powered by an aero engine. She was designed by marine architect Fred Cooper and featured a shallow V hull form for planing over the water. His experience of hard chine planing hulls made Hubert Scott-Paine realise that there was a military potential for this type of craft. The Admiralty were not interested at this time, but the RAF borrowed one of his cruisers to see if it would be suitable as a seaplane tender. From this came an order for a prototype numbered RAF 200, delivered in March 1931. The trials were conducted with the support of aircraftman Shaw, also known as Lawrence of Arabia. After successful trials, the RAF followed up with further orders, and even the Royal Navy placed orders for similar craft for torpedo recovery and flag barges. The British Powerboat Company quickly became established as a market leader in fast leisure craft. The private and commercial business was now in full flow, with numerous types on offer, which included cruisers such as the Sea Lord and Sea Emperor, tenders for seaplanes for Imperial Airways, an armoured customs launch for China, and even a seaplane tender for a German flying boat base. Throughout the 1930s, success continued with cruisers, racing boats, and new classes of military boats. These included for the RAF the 100-class high-speed launchers and armoured target boats, as well as the 16-foot, 18-foot planing dinghies, and for the Royal Navy several types of fast motorboats and flag barges, and their version of the 16-foot dinghy. In 1935, the company received the first orders for motor torpedo boats for the Royal Navy. The 64-foot type were thus numbered Motor Torpedo Boat 1 through to MTB 18, with later units being redesignated as Motor Anti-Submarine Boats 1 to 6. On the 6th of November 1938, the PV-70 was launched and saw the start of a successful 70-foot type motor torpedo boat and similar hull motor anti-submarine boat craft. With war clouds rising, production of military craft for all three services was stepped up, and contracts to build types under license were negotiated with Alco in the USA, Canadian Vickers in Canada, and the Cockatoo Boat Company in Australia. During World War II, some 954 craft were built by the Hythe and Paul factories, and 476 craft in the USA and Canada. The World War II craft included the MGB, motor gunboat, and the motor torpedo boat types, and more of the same pre-war types for the Royal Navy, 24-foot marine tenders and seaplane tenders for the RAF, and later the 68 feet, Hanson Dorset high-speed launchers, the very similar 68 feet battlefield-class high-speed target towing launchers, the 50 feet Dickens-class general service launchers, and the River-class fast launchers for the Army. The production of Queen Gull targets continued at the Marchwood facility. The Royal Navy had some of these craft as well, but also some larger target craft such as the Queen Pelican and the Queen Duck. Added to all this building activity, the company also carried out repairs to war-damaged craft and also continued to develop prototypes for the war effort. Hubert Scott-Paine spent the war years in America and stayed on at the end of hostilities. He suffered a stroke in April 1946 and after a long illness died in April 1954. The production of boats at Hythe had much reduced after the war and the decision was taken to close down the yard late in 1946. During the war years, the British Powerboat Company had 2,500 employees, including 800 apprentices and 1,000 women. Yet the blue plaque dedicated to Hubert Scott-Paine describes his contribution to winning the Schneider Trophy, but makes no mention of the British Powerboat Company, and the site of the boatyard is now a housing estate reclaimed from the sea.